Rick and Morty comic issue 36. Jerry starts out the story driving while asking how a business center for copy and print doesn't have a specific type of paper because he needs to get a standout resume with it. It was confusing at first glance because he didn't seem to be talking to anyone. At 10 miles from his destination, he says that if he has to drive an hour to get to the right paper, he's going to. And then he desperately hopes they'll be really impressed by his effort and hire him on the spot because they might know the city's out of ivory paper. That's dumb. Then he sees a sign that's using a slogan from the show for pears instead. He gets mad enough to yell at the GPS for telling him to drive where he's supposed to. He gets made fun of as a freak for getting mad, and the girl gets mad at him when it should be obvious to them that he's yelling at his GPS, not them. He's looking at it. Instead, he gets thrown out of the car because he happened to have his window open and gets attacked. At least it was sweet of the couple to show they love each other because the guy was like, "Gosh, I love doing stuff with you so much." Then Jerry gets caught in a bear trap in the city and says this doesn't even make sense. I laughed right away at him asking just what I was gonna. Why would there even be a bear trap here? So it was just there to be funny and it worked, so fine. Maybe a Rick dropped it here through a portal. Actually, this is gonna get explained. That's how great of a comic this is. He asks a woman to help him back to her car, and because she says car with a smile, it immediately gives away that she wants to steal his car or something. But he has no choice but to trust her because he's desperate. It's interesting that he actually told her he was upset about his slogan being stolen and she reacted to it. It makes sense that he would open up to her because it's better than awkward silence on the drive home. Then her entitled boyfriend kicks open the door and accuses her of cheating on him. Why does he think that helping him out of the bear trap was a euphemism when the bear trap's right there? He threatens him with a knife and she says that Jerry has a car. He complains that he told her that they'd just steal a car, and she asks if he even knows how. He shows he has something in common with Jerry by complaining that his girlfriend's emasculating him. She acts nice to him as he appreciates the gesture, saying that they can't rob the bank on foot. Jerry says he could just rent them a car, naturally not wanting his car implicated. And the girl just slaps him and he's called a sissy. Why didn't they rent a car? I guess they're that poor. Then reality ensues because the door gets knocked on by the police because some of their neighbors said it sounded like there was a domestic incident in here. Wintergreen tells Jerry to put something in his pants. The cop blames them for Jerry being hurt and says he'll have to arrest them. The cop gets bribed and says he's as human as the next guy. I like that there was a silence first where he thought about this to make it feel more justified because there was a transition to this. I thought he'd be a normal cop. He says he won't take them in if Jerry does a dance for him, or else he shoots all of them. The cop enjoys it and tells him to take his shirt off and spin it around as he humorously smirks. Well, I like that the cop looks like just any normal guy and isn't a total stereotype. He's just a stereotypical corrupt cop instead. Jerry complains that he just wanted a new resume, and the cop gets knocked out by Wintergreen while he's distracted. She says they've got to get out of here and meet Wintergreen's cousin in the car. Jerry's made to be their driver on top of everything else. He gets smacked in the back of the head and is told off for having so much hand lotion. Well, he was made a little too unlikable in the comic, including suggesting replacing Summer with a clone. So I don't feel like getting mad at the writer here. I can understand why with this character, so it just makes an interesting plot. Jerry's threatened that the bank robber will find him if he drives away, and he'll kill him and his whole family. Jerry says after they run off, "Well, it's not as much of a threat as you think it is," smirking with a cool expression. But surprisingly, he still didn't drive off. So what was the point of that? I guess to remind us that he deserves this a bit. I mean, how's he supposed to find him after he drives off anyways? They run back into the car with one of them injured, and it turns out that one of them dropped the money, and that person has hand lotion all over them. And impressively, it's explained why they wanted to rob the bank instead of the writer just leaving it at "they're bad guys so hate them." They had to try to do this to pay for their grandma's dialysis since they don't live in Canada. The bank robbers complain because someone lost their cool at the first sign of a gun, and the lady says, "I told you your cousin didn't have the stones for this." Wintergreen surprisingly says that his girlfriend isn't his. She's no one's possession. That's better than being a domestic abuser, like I immediately assumed when he kicked open the door, but it comes out of nowhere. The cousin complains that there was a screw-up because there was more than one guard in there. But why did he think there wouldn't be more than one guard in there? Was one of the guards on lunch break when he checked? The cousin's insulted for leaving the bag behind, and when Jerry's car hits a bump on the road, the rifle gets sent falling and shoots, killing everyone in the car except Jerry conveniently. And because the windows are stained, of course the cop pulls him over. But it turns out it's the same cop from earlier, and he assumes Jerry assaulted him when he was hit on the back of the head, and Jerry was in front of him. He would have remembered he was in front of him because he was in front of him for quite a longer time than just a second or two. That's forced. It would have made sense if they went with what they were going for before, where he got pulled over because of the mess, and that's why he was pulled over, but it could have been some other cop. Then out of nowhere, a bear in the middle of the city kills the cop. I guess the bear was an escaped exotic pet. So that's why the bear trap was there. Then to add insult to injury, when Jerry shows up at the business, he's told that they're all sold out of the paper he wanted. I guess he had to use Rick's portal gun to get rid of the bank robbers from his car. This managed to still be an interesting enough plot, even though it just involved Jerry and had no sci-fi stuff in it at all. I wish it didn't have such gore in it though. The whole story is about humiliating Jerry, which gives him comeuppance for being too unlikable sometimes, so I wasn't upset about it. Because the plot had enough happening to be interesting. Jerry just wants to get some paper for a resume. And because he finds out that the advertising company used the slogan anyways, he gets really mad, and then yells at his GPS in front of people for telling him to get back on track. Somehow this causes the couple to think he's talking to them, and beat him up for it when they should have seen him looking at the car instead. So he gets thrown out of his car because he happened to have the window open. I guess he just really likes the windows here. And that's the whole reason the entire plot happened. After that, a girl brings him home, but it turns out she was part of a group of bank robbers, who realistically just want the money to pay a hospital bill instead of being pure evil. It's a twist that she wants to do that instead of literally just driving away with his car. Then a cop who's called on them for all the noise gets knocked out from behind, bank robbery's foiled because one of the robbers drops the money in a panic, and when the car's tire hits a bump, they all get killed by their own gun. And then after all of that, Jerry can't even get the paper he wants. You know it's a story that had a lot of effort put into it by the writer when so many different things happened in the plot. At least it was focused on a different main character for a change, and was still good. I'd much rather have the whole summary be about describing how much happened in the plot, than have it mostly be about pointing out how problematic the very basic one-sentence plot was.